A very good morning to all. Today we will start with a new topic, that is continuation of internal reproductive organs under that the ovaries. If you remember the structure that we have discussed, ovaries that are the two pairs of ovary at the end of the fallopian tube, they are normally situated. So here we can see that this structure we have already discussed. We will revise. In between the uterus will be there. The upper part of the uterus is known as fundus. Two uterine tubes, they are the fallopian tubes, and at the end of the fallopian tubes, two ovaries will be there. Here you can see the cross structures of the ovaries. They are attached with the fimbria ends. Okay, here the vagina will be there, cervix will be there, and two layers of the uterus, that is endometrium and myometrium. Ovaries, they are the female gonads. Okay, they are mainly the female gonads. Their presence only in the female. The primary female reproductive organs. If you remember, the function of the ovary is to ovulate, means the release of the ovum in every month. An ovum, that is very necessary, or it is a basic cell, or it's a basic female germ cell which require for the fertilization, for bringing the offsprings. Okay, so that is a primary female reproductive organs. These glands have three important functions. They secrete the hormone. Okay, mostly the basic hormones, that is estrogen and progesterone, they are secreted by the hormones, and they regulate the whole menstruation and other processes. They protect the eggs a female is born with. Means they are protecting the eggs, and they release the eggs for possible fertilization. And every month the ovulation will be there, and that is useful for the fertilization. Human females, they are typically born with two ovaries. Okay? Uh, we have discussed in the diagram, or we've seen in the diagram, that there are two pairs of the ovary that will be there. Before the puberty, the ovaries, they are just a long bundle of the tissues. Okay? Before the girls, they are reaches to the puberty. The ovaries, they are not that much active, and they are just like the long bundle of the tissues. But as the girls, they are matures. So the ovaries, they are also matures in the structure and the functioning. When the girls, they are mature, they are about the size of the large grapes, or like the size of the almond. Okay, so that is a normal size of the ovary at the age of the puberty of the girls. The ovaries, they lies on the either side of the uterus against the pelvic wall in a region that is called the ovarian fossa. So they are on these either sides of the uterus, and that is only the pelvic organ that it is situated inside the pelvic cavity, and the region which is covered by the ovary, that is known as the ovarian fossa. They are held in place. The ovaries, that's one structure, but how they are held in the place, that they are by the ligaments, they are attached to the uterus. The ovaries, they are paired oval organs, they are attached to the posterior surface of the broad ligaments of the uterus by mesovarian. Okay, so what is it? It's a fold of the peritoneum, and that is continue with the outer surface of the ovaries. And neurovascular structure, they enters the hilum of the ovary via the mesovarium. Okay. So that these are the supportive structures of the ovary, how it is held, that is by the muscles and the region that is called the ovarian fossa, and the ligaments, they also helps for the attachments of the ovary to a proper place. Next, components of the ovary. The ovary, that is mainly two components, that is cortex and medulla, but here the one component, that is the surface. Okay? The surface of the ovary, that is formed by simple cuboidal epithelium. They are known as the germinal epithelium. They are nothing but the tissues. The underlying this layer is a dense connective tissue that is a capsule, and that is known as the cortex. This cortex it is comprised of the connective tissues, it is stroma and numerous ovarian follicles. Each follicles they contain the oocytes and they are surrounded by a single layer of the follicular cells. Okay? So surface that is a simple cuboidal epithelium they are included in the surface. Under that the cortex layer will be there. Cortex is comprised of the connective tissue stroma and numerous ovarian follicles will be there. And each ovarian follicles they contain the oocytes and they are surrounded by a single layer of the follicular cells. Next, that is a medulla. Okay. Medulla that is formed by a loose connective tissue and a rich neurovascular networks. Okay, so here they are loose connective tissues and rich neurovascular that is nervous that is nerve supplies will be there and vascular supply will be there which enters via the hilum of the ovaries. Okay, so three basic structures that is surface, cortex and medulla. Surface that is outer surface, simple cuboidal epithelium, cortex that is compromised connective tissue and medulla that is loose connective tissues. Okay. Here in the diagram you can see that this is a hilum of the ovary. Okay. This one is the medulla which contains a neurovascular structures and the outer that is a cortex it contains the ovarian follicles and small follicles will be there and it is whole it is covered by a cuboidal epithelium or that is a surface as we have discussed. Okay, so remember this three. This is surface that is cuboidal epithelium, medulla, neurovascular, cortex, follicles and that's a hilum. Next the ligaments. Okay. So that is hold the ovaries inside the position. The two peritoneal ligaments they attach to the ovary. That is suspensory ligaments and ligaments of the ovaries. Suspensory ligaments of the ovary they are the folds of the peritoneum that are extending from the mesovarian to the pelvic wall and they contains neurovascular structures. So mesovarian is nothing but it is the portion of the broad ligaments of the uterus they suspend the ovaries. The ovaries that they are not covered by the mesovarium but they are covered by the terminal epithelium. Okay, so they are the folds of the peritoneum. They extend from the broad ligaments or mesovarium to the pelvic wall and they contains a neurovascular structures. Other ligaments they are of the ovary. They extend from the ovary to the fundus of the uterus. Fundus that is upper portion. It then continue from the uterus to the connective tissue of the labia majoris or labia majoris as they found or they are found around the round ligaments of the uterus. Okay, so there are two main ligament structures they are supporting or attached to the ovaries that are suspensory ligaments of the ovary and ligaments of the ovary. Suspensory ligaments they are from mesovarium to the pelvic wall and ligaments of the ovary they are from ovary to the fundus of the uterus. So here you can see that the ligaments of the ovary, okay, these are the suspensory ligaments of the ovaries and these are the broad ligaments of the ovary. Next, a neurovascular supply. The main arterial supply to the ovary is via a paired ovarian arteries. This arises directly from the abdominal aorta that are inferior the renal arteries and this is a contribution from the uterine arteries. Venous drainage is achieved by a paired ovarian veins. The left ovarian vein drains into the left renal vein and right ovarian vein drains directly into the inferior vena cava. And the ovaries to receive a sympathetic and parasympathetic innervation from the ovarian and uterine plexus respectively. The nerves reach the ovaries via a suspensory ligaments of the ovary to enter the ovary at the These are the neurovascular supplies. Okay, the main arterial supply that is by the ovarian arteries, venous supplies that is achieved by a pair of ovarian veins, and sympathetic and parasympathetic they are by the suspensory ligaments of the ovary. Okay, here in the diagram you can see that the ovarian arteries these are there. Okay, the internal iliac arteries, vaginal arteries, and uterus arteries. These are the whole supply to all the reproductive organs. Next, the hormones. Okay. Mostly, we know about the estrogen and progesterone hormone. They are produced by the ovary, but in spite of that, there are two hormones that is also secreted by the ovaries. That is relaxin and inhibin hormone. Okay, that we'll discuss in detail. Ovaries they produce female reproductive organs. They are called estrogen and the progesterone, and some lesser hormones means less amount or at some situations they are called relaxin and inhibin hormone. Okay. There are three different types of the estrogen, that is estrone, estradiol, and estriol. They are used by the body to help to develop adult female characteristics such as enlargement of the breast, larger hips, and to aid in the reproduction cycle, that is a menstruation cycle. Progesterone is also a key for the reproduction, but it is the role of progesterone is at the time of the pregnancy or to prepare the uterine walls. Next, relaxin hormone. Okay, relaxin hormone it is during the labor means at the time of the delivery. The relaxin hormone it helps to stretch the ligaments and it helps to dilate the cervix. So relaxin it loosens the pelvic ligaments so they can stretch out during the labor. So relaxin it is only secreted at the time of the labor or delivery. And inhibin hormone it prevents the pituitary gland from producing the hormones. Means the production of the hormone will be ceased by the inhibin hormone. Okay, so two main hormones, estrogen and progesterone, in lesser amounts, two hormones that is relaxin and inhibin. Okay, estrogen they help for the development of secondary sexual characteristics like breast, hips, other and menstruation cycle. Progesterone helps for the preparation of the uterine wall. Relaxin at the time of the delivery and inhibin prevent the pituitary gland from producing the hormones. Next, ovulation. Okay. What is ovulation? Ovulation that is simple, we can say that release of the ovum that is known as the ovulation. If you remember the menstrual cycle that you have already learned, that's the ovulation that is occurred at the 14 days of the menstruation. Normally the girls or women they are having 20 days of the cycle and under that day, the 14th day that is a day of the ovulation. Okay. Nowadays, there is a ovulation kit is also available. By that kit, the women who have to plan for pregnancy or who want to plan for the pregnancy, they can use the ovulation kit to know that the ovulation is there or not. Okay, and that kit that works on the basis of the LH hormone. The secretion of LH hormone, that is luteinizing hormone, that is very high at the time of the ovulation. So the kit will help. Okay, so ovulation that is ovaries they releases one egg or sometimes more than one egg at each menstrual cycle, and this process is called the ovulation, or we can say that the release of mature ovum for the ovary is known as the ovulation. Inside each ovary there are follicles, and inside of each follicle is dormant eggs. When a female is born, means when there is a birth of the girl child, at that time she may have 1,50,000 to 5 lakh follicles in her ovaries. But by the time when the girl is sexually mature, the female will have it's around 34,000 follicles. Okay? So remember this numbers at the time of birth, 1,50,000 to 5 lakh. At the time of sexual maturity, 34,000. These figures may vary, depends on some researches, but it's nearer. When a particular egg is stimulated to maturity by hormone releases from the pituitary gland, the follicle migrates to the ovary. The egg is stimulated by the hormones, okay? And that hormone, all the hormones, they are released by the pituitary gland, and the follicles, they migrates to the ovary wall. Here the egg and the follicle, they grow, so they both will get the mature. When mature, they are ready for the ovulation. And mature follicles, the mature follicles, they are known as the graphene follicles. And the graphene follicles, we can assess how it is mature or not. That is based on their diameters. So the diameter of mature graphene follicle, it is 1.2 inches to 30 millimeters. So the follicles with the mature egg, they ruptures. Okay. Mature eggs, they are ruptured from the previously the developments of the mature graphene follicle. Okay. So the graphene follicle will get ruptured and they release the egg into the nearest fallopian tubes. Okay. The ovum that get released from the ovary, it is nearer to the fallopian tubes. From there, the egg is travel to the uterus. The body produces the hormone between this period, that is the progesterone hormones. Okay? The function of progesterone hormone is to make the lining of the uterus thicker, and we can say that they prepare the uterine wall to conceive a pregnancy and to conceive a baby, thicker to be receptive to the incoming egg. So if the fertilized egg will come, then the uterine wall, they can accept it and they can implant the fertilized ovum. If there is no sperm, okay, or if the egg just doesn't get the fertilized, means there is no any fertilization is there, the body stops making progesterone. Okay. Around the 9 days after the ovulation, means the secretion of progesterone will get ceased or stop. Then the egg is flushed from the uterus during the menstruation. So the girls, they are having the normal menstruation, and the ovum is also flushed out during the menstruation. And each menstrual cycle is around 28 days. And if the egg is supposed to fertilize, then the corpus luteum and then the placenta of the fetus, it keeps producing the progesterone. Okay, progesterone that is produced by the ovary themselves. Okay, and they have prepared the uterine wall for the fertilization or for the implantation of the fertilized ovum. Okay, so if there is a fertilization, means if the girls, they have conceived the pregnancy, then the corpus luteum and then the placenta of the fetus, they keep producing progesterone, means the production of the progesterone, that is throughout the pregnancy. Not only does this hormone keep the uterus a hospitable environment for a growing egg, it also prevents the ovary from releasing more eggs. So if there is a continuous production of the progesterone hormone is there, then the secretion or the release of formation of mature graphene follicle will be stopped. So there is a no ovarian production or no release of ovum during this period. If you have seen that the women who are pregnant, they have amenorrhea since 9 months. So this is a reason that the progesterone hormone will stop the release of the ovum from the ovaries. Here two terms are there, that is a corpus luteum and the placenta. Okay, so what is a corpus luteum and what is a placenta? Okay, a corpus luteum, that is a hormone secreting structure That is a temporary structure that develops inside the ovary only. And when it will develop, then it will develop after an ovum has been released. Means the corpus luteum will release after the ovulation. Means the mature ovum is released, then the corpus luteum, that is temporary structure, has been developed for a continuation of the pregnancy. But if the degeneration after a few days, if the pregnancy is not there, the corpus luteum is also shed out under menstruation. And if the fertilization is there, then the corpus luteum, they continue their work to produce the hormone. And placenta. Placenta, that is a temporary structure, okay, or it is, we can know, say that it is a way by which the mothers, they can provide all the nutrients, they can give immunity, they can act as a barrier. There are so many functions of the placenta. So baby, they are not able to do, but the placenta will uh, make a channel between the baby and the mother to supply all the things and to excrete the waste products. So this is about the all ovaries structure and the function.